Ward had a rough day at Tennessee Titans training camp on Tuesday with 3 interceptions, but it wasn't quite as bad as it sounds. I'll explain on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, on today's show, we're going to break down everything you need to know from the Tennessee Titans' first padded practice of training camp. We're going to talk about some rookies who finally stepped up for the first time. We're going to talk about the O-line versus the D-line, and we're going to start with Cam Ward's rough day that included 3 interceptions. Before we get into all of it, do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. You're not going to beat that anywhere else. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Titans podcast. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. If you aren't an everydayer, now is the perfect time to be one. The Titans have another padded practice on Wednesday. I'm going to be here to break that down. We got joint practices happening with the Buccaneers next week. Can't wait to dive into all of that with you guys. So make sure, again, that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Titans podcast. But we got to talk about Cam Ward's day, because the reality is, no matter how you want to slice it, it was a bad day for Cam Ward, highlighted again by those 3 interceptions. Stats from Jim Wyatt from TennesseeTitans.com. Cam Ward was 5 of 9 and 7 on 7. He was 6 for 17 in the full 11 team periods. He was 11 of 26 on the day. And again, we'll get to the interceptions, and I think the interceptions aren't quite as worrisome as maybe some of the other stuff. Cam Ward continued to be very off target, very inaccurate, behind his wide receivers, low on some passes. There were quite a few deep passes down the field where Cam Ward was just not throwing it anywhere near further enough. They were all coming up short. They were all coming up behind. It was just a really, really poor day for Cam Ward. Now, look, there's some good in there as well. He did have a team period where he completed 4 of 5 passes. He hit a couple of throws over the middle to Tyler Lockett, had a dump off to Chigakonkwo. I think he had a deep one to Gunnar Helm as well. Like, there's some good stuff in there. But we got to be honest, this was not a good practice for Cam Ward and his first real football experience with the Tennessee Titans. Again, 11 for 26, 3 interceptions, multiple overthrows, some underthrows in there as well, behind on a few passes. Like, it just wasn't a great day. And everyone's going to harp on the interceptions. 3 interceptions. But the reality is, you look at the interceptions, and to me, this is where it wasn't quite as bad as it sounds when we're talking about the interceptions. On one of the interceptions, Cam Ward tried to hit an RPO, and he had his arm angle too low, and it hit off T'Vondre Sweat's helmet, and it popped up, and it got intercepted. You know what I mean? Like, it was Gabe Jeudy-Lawley got it off a tip off T'Vondre Sweat's helmet. That's not like a terrible, terrible throw where he was just completely inaccurate, or he read the defense wrong, or it was a stupid decision to make to throw it there. Like, you know, unfortunately, that stuff happens. And I think Cam Ward, we talk about these mistakes and these days that maybe aren't perfect. He is learning. So understanding, hey, I can't go with an arm angle that low when I'm trying to throw through traffic on an RPO. Like, that's just not going to work out well. That is the exact type of lesson and the exact type of learning scenario that Cam Ward needs to go through. That's what we're talking about. There was another interception to Xavier Woods where the reality is he was just totally not on the same page with Chigakonkwo. Just totally not on the same. Okonkwo went another direction. Cam Ward thought he was going somewhere he wasn't. He threw to a spot. There was literally nobody there but Xavier Woods. That is the kind of interception I want Cam Ward to have, where it's not that he made a terrible and inaccurate throw, or it was a duck, or he made a bad. It just literally him and Chigakonkwo aren't on the same page. That is what training camp is for. Hey, why did you do that when we got a cover 3? That guy was sinking down on you. Why did you move there? Having those conversations, having those discussions are critical to Cam Ward learning and for the offense as a whole to continue growing. Now, the final interception of the day might have been the worst one. Cam Ward threw deep down the sideline in double coverage, and Darrell Baker Jr. was able to jump up and snag it. Now, I saw some people who were at practice who talked about that play kind of hint that, hey, he was throwing it to Josh Whyle. Whyle didn't necessarily make a great attempt on the ball. And I even saw, if you look at Jim Wyatt's observations, not a lot of people are out there saying, hey, this guy's not doing well. Hey, this. And Jim didn't do that, but he did say that Josh Whyle has had a very quiet start to camp. And I think adding that in with some of the other things that we've heard people say about Josh Whyle, his attempt on that pass, I'm not trying to, I know that if you're a hater, if you got the other AFC South folks in here, they're going to jump in and say, oh, that's cope. You're just trying to cope with all these interceptions Cam Ward's throwing, blah, blah, blah. But I think that you look at all three of these interceptions, and they're great opportunities for Cam to learn from them. One, you can't have your arm angle that low. Two, miscommunication with Chigakonkwo. Let's get on the same page. So when it counts in the season, we know what we're doing. We're all good to go. And then taking a shot down the field, throwing it into double coverage to see how that is, hey, is Josh Whyle somebody I can count on to go get it? Gunnar Helm made a catch like that earlier in a training camp practice. So can I count on Josh Whyle to make these kind of plays for me? And maybe I'm not going to throw balls up to him like I would if Josh Whyle is even around after cut down day, which I'm very skeptical of at this time. But let me say this. For those who would say it's cope, listen, I have to be honest. I am so hype about Cam Ward. Can't wait to watch him play. I think he can be the one to lead this franchise. But at some point, and it's not now, it's not his first padded practice of his NFL career. It's not the second week of training camp. Now is not the time to freak out or, oh, he's a bust. Or just like I said yesterday, now is not the time for panic. But what I will say is a lot of turnovers for the offense so far in training camp. And again, it's week 2. It's practice number 4, I think, for the Titans. Maybe 5 overall, not counting Fridays that wasn't open to the media. So we're talking about a 5th training camp practice, first practice for a rookie quarterback ever in pads in the NFL. So you got to keep that in mind, especially the type of interceptions that they were and what he can learn from them. But if we're 2 weeks from today and the Titans go to joint practices with Tampa Bay and Cam Ward throws a bunch of interceptions against the Bucs in their joint practice, I mean, at some point, we can't just say, oh, he's a rookie, he's learning. That point isn't right now. It's not right now that we get to start having some concern. But at some point, how you practice is how you play. And if we're into joint practices with the Buccaneers, and we get to joint practices with the Atlanta Falcons, and for the entire month of training camp, Cam Ward has had interception issues. He's got 5 interceptions so far in 5 practices of training camp. I get learning lessons, testing, calibrating, and that's all what we're going to tell ourselves, and that is the case. But if a month from now, we're still talking about, man, he's having multiple interceptions. There's a ton of interceptions. And for the offense as a whole, which we're going to talk about here in a second, if the turnovers continue to be a problem, which they were a major problem on Tuesday, at some point, we're going to have to be like, oh, I'm a bit nervous. I'm a bit nervous about how this might go now. So it's not right now, but like I said on yesterday's show, we need to start having some days where the offense wins because the defense won again in a major way on Tuesday. Today's episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. Fantasy football is back. Fire up the group chat, get your draft board ready, and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, and all the overreactions that we live for. It's all going down on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, me, maybe some listeners are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too. Whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. I've used Yahoo Fantasy for years. I love how smooth the draft day process is. Easy setup, a great mobile app, and the smack talk just hits different in the message boards. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and more ways to win. It all begins on August the 4th. Stay tuned and get started by creating or joining a Yahoo Fantasy Football League at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. And let's make this fantasy season the best one yet. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast, breaking down everything you need to know from Tuesday's first padded practice of training camp. We talked about Cam Ward, his rough day out there, why I'm not freaking out about it, but we do need to, at some point, see some improvement here and see the offense have some good days, because I think the Tennessee Titans defense is going to be good. I don't think the Tennessee Titans defense is going to be great, okay? And the defense has absolutely dominated training camp up to this point. And most of the good plays and the exciting plays that we've got from Cam Ward have honestly been plays that probably would have been sacks. That throw to Calvin Ridley, the crossbody one, that's a sack. You know, like some other throws that have happened, they're sacks. And that is concerning. But with that concern, I do bring some optimism. The Titans' offensive line had a good day. It was Cam Ward that was bad, throwing bad passes. You know what I mean? The Titans' offensive line, especially in the one-on-one drills, in the one-on-one session with them and the defensive line working on pass rush, the Titans' offensive line dominated, quite honestly, in the one-on-one situations, and that is pretty exciting to hear. Look, I know that it's hard to believe that the defense could dominate the day and Cam Ward could play so bad, but the offensive line could have a decent day, and quite frankly, that's the case, though. That is the case. And looking at some of the one-on-one matchups, according to Nick Suss, the offensive line won 29 of the one-on-one matchups. The D-line won 14, and there were 4 ties. That is a decisive win by the Tennessee Titans offensive line. Decisive one-on-one victory. Now, that includes first team, third team, all of that. Coming out of practice, nothing but great things about Peter Skoronski. I saw Easton Freeze say that Peter Skoronski is by far, clear and away, the Tennessee Titans' best pass protector. He said pretty comfortably for my money. J.C. Latham also very good, a clear second best. I heard great things about Kevin Zeitler. And for me to admit this, I even heard great things about Jalen Duncan. I'm not a Jalen Duncan fan. I did not like the draft pick. Nothing that he's done so far in his career has made me feel like I got that wrong. I feel like I was right on Jalen Duncan. But it's not over yet. I could still be wrong. And I'm hearing some good things about Jalen Duncan, hearing some good things about Brendan Crenshaw-Dixon, the undrafted free agent out of Florida as well. So Jalen Duncan apparently had a really good rep against Femi Oladipo on the day. And we'll talk about the defensive line here in just a second. But, hey, maybe Jalen Duncan could step up and be that backup swing tackle. We know that the Tennessee Titans like Jalen Duncan. They want something out of Jalen Duncan because last year, even though NPF is a better player, which is hard to say, but NPF is a better player than Jalen Duncan right now based on what they've done, they put Jalen Duncan out there in front of him. They wanted Jalen Duncan to take that spot, and he got hurt immediately when they gave him the opportunity to start at right tackle. But clearly, it's obvious that the Titans coaching staff wants Jalen Duncan to make that jump. There's something, it's all the athleticism. He's super athletic. He just doesn't have the mindset, I would say, has been a struggle and one of the knocks on him coming out of college. But hey, Peter Skoronski looking great. J.C. Latham looking great. Jalen Duncan looking good. I even saw some good things, about Jackson Slater. So I know, again, that it's hard to hear this, but Cam Ward was bad on the day, and the offensive line wasn't that bad. And Excuse me. Tons of pressure from Denard Wilson. Denard Wilson was bringing blitzes, tons of pressure packages. I think it was Peter Skoronski said that this is the most pressure packages that he's seen from a Denard Wilson's defense, since Denard Wilson got hired. The most pressure packages, and they threw them all at him today. One, I love that because it's getting Cam Ward ready for the pressure, but also it's testing the offensive line in a major way. Now, here's the thing. If the Titans' defense dominated the day, and Peter Skoronski, J.C. Latham had very good days, Kevin Zeitler had a good day, that does make me wonder, is the other side of that Dan Moore, Corey Levin were the guys getting destroyed? Because I was listening to one of the local broadcasts that was literally doing play-by-play for the practice. I heard him say one of the offensive linemen just got their feet knocked up into the air by Jeffrey Simmons. Well, if Skoronski had a great day and Zeitler had a great day and Latham had a great day, then it was probably Levin or Dan Moore. And that, Levin is a backup, and we know that. We're waiting for Cushenberry to come back. I think he could be a serviceable backup for the Titans with Lloyd Cushenberry being injured if he wasn't ready for the start of the season. I think that Corey Levin would do all right. But if Dan Moore is the one getting destroyed, if Dan Moore is the one getting taken advantage of, that just kind of confirms my concerns about paying $22 million to the guy that gave up the most sacks in the NFL last year. And they said, Brian Callahan, he wasn't a backup in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh tried everything they desperately could do to make him a backup. They drafted first-round offensive tackles in back-to-back seasons because they think Dan Moore is a backup. So, I have been concerned about the Dan Moore contract. I will remain skeptical about the Dan Moore contract, and nothing that has happened so far in training camp has made me feel better about it. Now, it's the first day of pads, and I said we don't get to judge the offensive line until they get pads on, but if the defense dominated and, Cam Ward was bad and these other guys on the O-line were good, that means somebody struggled on the offensive line, and my money is that it's Dan Moore and Corey Levin. But, we don't have full clarity on that as of right now. Once we get that, next padded practice tomorrow, joint practices with the Bucs, I think we'll have a better idea of exactly how the offensive line is doing. But I do want to say this. The fact that the Titans' defensive line did get pressure during the team stuff, but the Titans' defensive line lost sure-handedly in one-on-ones, it confirms what I think about the Titans' defense. They are not going to be able to just rush four guys and get to the quarterback. Simmons has never proven to be an elite rusher like that. T'Vondre Sweat is not. Arden Key is just a good third rusher. Femi had a bad day pass rushing. Femi got beat over and over and over again in the one-on-ones, and this is the reality. This is why I said I don't think that Femi is a guy who you should count on pass rush rotation and stuff like that. He needs to be an early down physical edge setter and let his body and his mentality be what carries him early on as he develops the technique. I mean, he got whooped on a rep by Jalen Duncan. Femi Oladejo did not have a good one-on-one period. He's not ready for that. So we got to keep our expectations in check with Femi, even if we're excited about what he can be. I mean, he's ahead of the curve, but remember, this is an off-ball linebacker transitioning to edge. He is not going to be great with his pass rush technique early on. So, Jeffrey Simmons apparently had a good day. T'Vondre Sweat and run defense had a good day. That's all stuff that you want to hear, of course. Jalen Harrell had a nice rep as well. So, listen, it's day one of pads. I want to hear more about the O-line. I want to hear more about the defensive line. But early on, some good spots on the O-line, some good spots with the D-line, and some things that we got to be concerned about. But with that in mind, let's move to the rest of the team because we got to talk about some of these rookies on offense who, I say revenge, but, finally popped at their first training camp practice. Today's episode is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this is a hole-in-one for your energy game, let's be honest. Some days on the course or even off of it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. Me personally, I know that training camp days, there's a lot going on. I can start to wear down before the show. A little 5-hour energy helps make sure I can deliver the best content I possibly can. And when I'm on the golf course, it makes sure that I'm playing my best as well. Golf is good all the time because you're having good times with good people, and you add in good flavors. It makes it even better. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. The offer is valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5-hour energy shots today. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We talked about Cam's Day. We talked about the trenches. Now I want to get into everyone else, and specifically Gunnar, Helm, and Xavier Restrepo, who both had great days on Tuesday. Before I dive into it, I do want to thank you again for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Remember, tomorrow the Titans have practice again with the pads on. I'm going to be here to break everything down with you. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. But got to start with Gunnar Helm. Gunnar Helm had multiple catches on the day, had a nice adjustment catch as well. I heard multiple folks at practice talking about Gunnar Helm and how he finally stood out. Also, Xavier Restrepo. Xavier Restrepo has had a very quiet start to training camp. I talked about Xavier Restrepo on yesterday's show and how, quite frankly, he's been a Titan down so far in the process. But Xavier Restrepo had multiple catches on this day. Of course, the first day we put the pads on. The guy is just a gamer. Multiple catches at practice. Also had a 50-yard touchdown on a bomb from Tim Boyle, 50 yards. Xavier Restrepo beat the safeties deep, caught the pass for a score. Most productive day of camp is what Jim Wyatt said. He had 4 catches on the day, including that 50-yard touchdown on the inside post. Xavier Restrepo needed a big day. We haven't really heard a lot about him so far. Nice for him to step up, make some plays, make his presence felt. That's what he needs to do. And again, we're talking about catching passes from Tim Boyle. So that means he's working with the third-team offense. So he's got to find a way to start establishing himself and getting himself seen. Gunnar Helm, I talked about. Also have to mention some of the other wide receivers here. Tyler Lockett had a very good day. He was one of the only productive guys, had 3 catches on the day, according to Jim Wyatt. And Ridley had 3 catches as well. But I want to talk tight ends. Because, again, Josh Whyle struggled. He had a drop on the day. He didn't necessarily put the best attempt on that third Cam Ward interception. Jim Wyatt said Whyle let a catchable ball escape his grasp early. He's having a pretty quiet camp so far. That's something that I talked about earlier. And I only bring that up because David Martin Robinson, who I continue to say I think will take Josh Whyle's roster spot, continues to be great in camp. He had 4 catches on Tuesday. He has 10 catches in the 4 open practices, according to Jim Wyatt, who keeps these stats for TennesseeTitans.com. David Martin Robinson is making an impact every single day, and now that the pads are on, he continues to do it. Finally, do want to mention James Williams. You guys know I'm a James Williams stan at this point. Had some good plays on Tuesday, had a forced fumble on a run up the middle on a hit on Tajay Spears. And this is where I end it. Some drop passes, 3 interceptions, 2 fumbles. One of them recovered by the offense, but 2 fumbles on the day. The offense has just been awful early on. And look, with offense, the offense is going to be behind the defense. We know that. That's always the case early in camp. But at some point in time, the offense has to win some days. And I talked about that, getting you ready for padded practices. Look, I know that we want to take our time. We need to be patient. A lot of young guys on offense, but at some point, the offense has to strike back too. So we got to keep our eye on that going forward. Another padded practice on Wednesday. I'll be here to break down everything you need to know coming out of it. But again, at some point, now is not the time to panic, but at some point we do need the offense to show some life, and we need to see Cam Ward have a good practice as well. But with that being said, that is going to do it for me today, folks. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.